Zombie is a buzzword. He is loved by authors of action films, thrillers, and even romance novels. This word is loved by rock musicians of heavy format. So what is the secret of this popularity? After all, a zombie is just a living corpse. The homeland of zombies is the island of Haiti in the West Indies, where black slaves from the African continent were taken for a long time. The beliefs of Africans, combined with Catholicism, the official religion of the French colony, gave rise to the spiritual culture of Voodoo, a kind of fusion of religious dogmas and magic. In this spiritual culture, experience gained through various rituals is very important. In Haiti, they say, a Catholic goes to church to talk about God, a Voodooist dances in the courtyard of the temple to become God. The zombie phenomenon is not the main pivot of Voodooism, but people of Western culture are most worried about the metamorphoses that occur with the dead. The transformation of a person into a zombie is a bit like a contract murder. An unwanted person becomes a victim of witchcraft, falls ill, then dies. He is buried, observing the appropriate rituals. And a few days later, at the behest of the sorcerer, they dig it out. The sorcerer performs a certain ritual over the deceased, and the deceased comes to life. He cannot speak, does not show any emotions, but, obeying the will of the sorcerer, who revived him, acts and terrifies people. The Haitians believed that François Duvalier, the long-standing dictator of the island, who declared himself anointed of the African gods and an otherworldly creature, was endowed with supernatural powers, and that he turned people killed on his orders into zombies, making them his invisible spies. For a long time, the zombie phenomenon remained a mystery. Many scientists have tried to explain this phenomenon, but only recently have they managed to lift the veil over the secret of zombies. It became known that a living person is turned into a zombie with the help of some kind of poison. The American ethnobotanist Wade Davis, who visited Haiti specifically to study this phenomenon, managed to get some zombie powder and subject it to chemical analysis. It turned out that the main component of this drug is the potent poison tetrodotoxin, one of the strongest natural nerve poisons. In its action, it is 10 times superior to the famous curare, and more than 400 times that of strychnine. This substance is found in the body of some animals, including puffer fish. This fish has a notorious notoriety, which is fairly accurately reflected by the Japanese proverb, "If you want to eat puffer, write your will." The first description of the signs of tetrodotoxin poisoning is contained in the diary of the famous navigator James Cook. On September 8, 1774, his sloop Resolution dropped anchor off the coast of New Caledonia. It was there that Cook was offered freshly cooked fish of an unknown species. Cook tasted the liver and milk. At about 3 or 4 in the morning, I felt an unprecedented weakness in all my limbs, accompanied by such a feeling as if my arms and legs, numb in the frost, were immediately caught in the fire. I almost did not feel anything. Experts say that the symptoms of tetrodotoxin poisoning are described very accurately. First, there is a loss of sensation in the limbs, then the tongue, the tips of the fingers and toes become numb. Difficulty swallowing, it becomes difficult to breathe, then paralysis covers the entire body. It happens that the poisoned person does not die, but falls into a coma, similar to a lethargic sleep. There are cases when the victims came to life shortly before burial and rose from the coffin on the way to the cemetery, which caused considerable confusion among others. Who are zombies? And yet fugu is considered a delicacy in Japan. Although there are hundreds of fatal cases every year, the puffer continues to be cooked and eaten. The fact is that in small concentrations, tetrodotoxin acts like a drug, causing euphoria and pleasant physical sensations. The task of the cook, and it is extremely difficult to obtain a license for the right to prepare fugu, is not to completely remove tetrodotoxin, but to lower its content to the required level. Knowing about such an unusual effect of fugu poison on the human body, Haitian sorcerers used it to make zombie powder. And yet it remained unclear how the victim of the zombie could be for several days underground in the complete absence of breathing and cardiac activity. An interesting hypothesis has recently been put forward to explain this phenomenon. It turns out that the human liver, in addition to its main functions, is ready to perform another one, it can be an additional pump that pumps blood from the main organs into the venous bed. Thus, the liver takes over the function of the heart. It is thanks to the liver that life glimmers in a buried zombie alive. It should be noted that tetrodotoxin affects Haitians and Europeans differently. If the latter, having recovered from the poisoning, return to normal life, then the former obediently play the role of zombies.